we're here at the Canadian Opera Company just before a rehearsal of Louis Riel gets started, and we're standing here with Estelle Shook, who's the assistant director on this production. Thank you very much for joining us. Wanted to ask you about this piece. It's problematic in many ways, the opera Louis Riel. How did you come to it, and what sparked your interest in participating with this production?
When I first heard about the project, I was immediately piqued because I have ancestry that goes back to the resistance at Batoche. I have a great-great-grandfather who participated, although not in a for way, in rather against way, in Batoche. He was a Scotch Cree lawyer who actually tried to convince Louis Riel not to take up arms. And they had a big argument, and Louis Riel actually tried him for sedition amongst all of the men. Gabriel Dumont acted as the judge. Then somehow that trial just got left and things carried on. And again, my great-great-grandfather participated in another altercation involving Gabriel Dumont on Carlton Road. And Gabriel Dumont actually blames him for actually sparking some of the violence that occurred later on.
Wow. So your family's
yes,
really involved with this story.
Really involved. It is a very complicated history, and what I find interesting about my family's participation or connection to these events is that it's another side of the story, yet from an Indigenous perspective. And I feel like this piece is about perspectives and about representation and who is telling the story, and that's in fact what makes it such a problematic piece, is that this opera, which in a way is commemorating, or what meant to commemorate Confederation and is now part of the celebrations of our 150, is one very small part of that story and doesn't represent many other important voices.
Right.
And in fact, this project in fact calls into question the very nature of the celebration around Confederation. And right. I think what I find interesting about this is this take, Peter Hinton's vision for this production, is that it is attempting to, in a judo-like way, understand, expose the inherent cultural biases of the piece, which was written in the 60s by two white guys, right, at a time that it was less knowledgeable than we are now in terms of Indigenous rights, where we are legally with Indigenous land claims and treaties, and in fact the whole history of colonization. We just have an inkling more understanding, and that understanding has to grow more and more. And this, I think in this project, what we are trying to do is use it as a way of opening up more dialogue, both from an institutional perspective, in terms of the COC, opening up its doors to Indigenous artists and different perspectives that may actually counter what this opera is talking about, or the perspectives of this opera.
On it, in a way.
Exactly. Interrogated, I guess you could say.
Right.
Peter Hinton talks about the idea of a trial.
Right.
That in this project, in this opera, where the trial is such a centerpiece, Louis Riel's trial, there are other trials going on. The trial of Confederation. We are putting the idea of Confederation on trial. We're putting the idea of representation and history telling on trial. Maybe the idea of a kind of European elitist art form on trial in Canada today. So in that way, it's super exciting. And as an artist, I find that a very compelling and exciting project to be a part of.